Hello and welcome to A Slice of Pie. We're doing a second take because I did not like how the first one came out. But I got this thing for Christmas and I just wanted to show it off. Let's talk about some channel news. Monday. Nova Build Part 1. That is coming up. Also coming up on the channel, I'm eventually going to be redoing that test bench and hooking up an old system and putting that in there. I actually just got one of the last pieces I need. These are super long standoffs that are actually made not of metal but of a plastic material, an anti-static material. That combined with the base from the motherboard, and then I actually have some sheets of here, I'll just bring one out. I got these, which are actually aluminum rods. Nice, non-ferrous metal that we are then going to cut. I think I'm just gonna go boom, and then like a little bit off the top here, and then just do two parallel rails along the bottom there to strengthen up the middle. Essentially, we're going to be making this test bench into a really proper test bench. And it's going to probably, cross our fingers, be awesome. I don't know. I also got a bunch of Dremel cutting discs so that I actually have the ability to do what I need to do. So that is that. Also, skateboarding, I need to get out there some more, but it has been crazy. I literally haven't had a day off in forever. And plus with the time change, it's really hard for me to get out before it gets dark or to skate and then work. It's just, there's no way for me to do both, unfortunately, right now. So once the time change happens, it'll be a little bit easier, but I intend to go out there, practice up, and I'll take you guys out when that happens on a vlog, just to get the rust off, because I haven't been able to skate and I dearly miss being able to go out every day. Plus, I need to get you guys a tutorial on how to do the mirror flip because I have been asked twice now. It's more times than I've been asked for anything on YouTube, so twice to do it. So I am going to do a tutorial on that. The trick itself is actually fascinating, but explaining it without showing you would be impossible. So just note, once conditions for skating get better, I will be skating more. It's just right now I'm spending a lot of time indoors because I just don't have the energy. I'm dealing with people too much on a regular basis. It's killing me a little bit. So that is coming. It is on the way. Game news. Okay, I never worked on the transitions that I said I was gonna work on last episode. Well, I told myself I was gonna work on it, but I never did. So maybe next week, I don't know. Game news, we actually have a small story to talk about before the tech news. Division 2 is going to be coming to the Epic Game Store instead of Steam. This is fascinating because the Epic Game Store just recently started actually selling games that don't belong to Epic. And this is the first game, I think, not on Unreal, that's going to be on the store, and it's the first major high-profile title. That being said, this definitely means that we are going to have a computer store war thing going on, and it is both exciting and terrifying. Luckily, I already have the Epic launcher installed because, as you may or may not know, that's where I develop my video game, or am developing my video game. Tech news. CES 2019 is wrapping up. We've had our major press conferences, and our major players have pretty much all released and announced what they are going to release and announce. So, how did it go? Well, NVIDIA did actually announce the 2060, and it's a $350-ish card. So, it is a $350 card. Some of the board partners are probably going to take it up to $400 with overclocked versions. It's not a bad price value proposition. They showed it off running DLSS and they showed it off running ray tracing. That being said, if we're being honest, in a controlled environment, you can make anything do whatever you want. It's going to be an okay card, and at that price, it's going to be a pretty good card with that technology. That being said, there's still that persistent rumor of an 1160, and I think a lot of people still believe it's true, because not only has a major tech YouTuber, Linus Tech Tips, said and mentioned it, but it's consistent across all of the tech YouTubers that I watch that they do believe that the 1160 is still a thing. So NVIDIA should have done both if they plan on doing both now, because I think a lot of people are still waiting to see if there's going to be a $50 to $100 cheaper version of this card. AMD did announce a new graphics card, and it is called the Radeon 7, or as I'm referring to it as Vega 2, because that's what it is. It is just a second generation Vega, and it is supposed to compete with the 2080. That being said, it's only like marginally competing. Like, it's more or less 1 to 2 frame differences. I'm sure it's going to be a situation where this card beats it in some cases and then that card beats it in other cases. That being said, it does have 16 gigabytes of HBM2 memory, which, holy cow, I already love HBM2 memory, so I can only imagine how much that is. A 1 terabyte memory bus, which a 1 terabyte a second memory bus in transfer rate, again, absolutely insane. Where this card is going to specialize is going to be high resolution textures and extremely high resolutions. That is where your video card memory gets eaten up the fastest. So in tasks like Photoshop, where you may have a massive size photo and you're working with 3D modeling and things of that nature mixed in there, you could actually hypothetically eat up that memory. And so for production, that is cool. That being said, the price coming in at exactly the same as the 2080 means that they are going to be compared on an apples to apples basis, even though they technically have different strengths. NVIDIA is technically better for gaming, where the AMD card is technically better for some applications. That being said, it doesn't have the red video card rendering, but at the same time, how many of us actually have red cameras? I mean, I don't. I have a Canon. I have a T6i. There was a whole vlog about it. I love this camera, but I don't have a red camera, so I have no use for those extra compute units. That also, I mean, there's a lot being said. There also was a bit of a feud between the NVIDIA CEO trash-talking AMD and saying that this card's not offering very much new, and I think that sums up some people's perspective, but AMD's response actually raises more questions than answers, because she essentially, the CEO said, just wait and see. And that kind of back and forth where he seems to actually be attacking her almost makes it look like they've got something up their sleeves that they're not showing us. Now, they did mention we will get more graphics card news later this year. I don't think what she's referring to is that, though. And the reason I'm saying this is because Vega, there's a little secret about Vega cards, is if you release their voltage limits, they can go wild at some absolutely beastly performance. The Vega 56 can overclock itself to a 64 and even higher. It, I think, went to a 2070 at one point. The 64 probably can be done the same way. Gamers Nexus just didn't do it. This card might already be running at a lower voltage than the two that I just mentioned. It already is known to be a little bit more efficient according to AMD. So there is a possibility. I'm not saying, don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% sure how Vega 2 works. But if AMD is holding this information back, we could see a very, very, very fascinating result in all the benchmarks. If the Vega card has, or Vega 2 has the ability to do what Vega 64 can do, we could see performance up to probably a 2080 Ti. And the reason I'm thinking this is if the cores themselves scale the same way, and it's already at a 2080, how far of a leap would it have to make to do a 2080 Ti? And or worse. I mean, we also are seeing this card on air, and we already know that Vega prefers water. There's a lot about this that I've been thinking and sitting on. I've actually haven't been talking about this too much to anyone because I've just been trying to process the game that they're playing. That being said, this could just be another momentous AMD just going, we'll just compete with a 2080. We'll compete with the 80 series. And that's pretty much how Vega worked. And then all the stuff about voltage regulation came out after the fact. Or AMD could go in knowing this, just not telling, like advertising it this way, and know that if they tweak the voltage up, all of a sudden the performance just skyrockets. Again, this could be the situation or it could not. I do not really appreciate NVIDIA CEO's comments just because they seem a little douchey. And let's face it, currently 1080p is still the most commonly used resolution for gaming. Meaning a 64 or even a 1080 will do just fine. They are pretty cheap right now. I mean, you could go with either card in a new system and you probably will never see your frames dip below 60, as long as you properly optimize CPU and RAM and all that stuff. So, is this announcement lukewarm? Yes. Yes, it is. Is NVIDIA helping? No. In fact, in many ways, now, I'm probably going to skip the 20 series altogether. And that's just because of the comments that the CEO, like how cocky he is about this stuff. I cannot get behind a company like that. I don't know, it bugs me personally. I shouldn't take it personally, but it does. So that is the graphics card drama that unfolded at this convention. We did also see a little bit of Zen 3. Zen 3 actually is a bit more exciting, but that's not because of anything AMD said. Zen 3 is exciting because of what they showed. They actually showed us the die without its heat spreader on, and there are two chiplets on this chip, and one of those chiplets is so that two or more compute chiplets can communicate with one another. It was actually found on the Threadripper systems back when they were first released. This has enough room for a second Zen 3 core and the two pieces that we saw, which means we can see possibly up to 16 gigabytes. 16 gigabytes. Oh my god. We can see up to 16 cores on a single chip, which is awesome because think about how that scales up. 16 cores plus, if we're doing Threadripper style, we could probably go even higher than that. Oh my god. But the other reason it's exciting is the way that they're doing these chips. We could possibly have a full Vega chip right on the CPU, and we might actually be able to get APUs that could do 1080p gaming for modern titles like nothing. And I honestly am more excited about that than I am about 16 cores. I don't know why, but the idea of building like a little tiny console PC for a reasonable price and then like just throwing it in people's faces who play on console, I don't know, for some reason that amuses me. Also, the idea of having a one-chip system amuses me, but I'm a nerd for these things, so yeah. Either way, pretty cool stuff from there. Again, a lot of this stuff seems really early in the pipeline, and there's a lot that might be announced around Computex, I think is where we're gonna hear more about Zen 3 and Navi. And then we really need to wait on Radeon 7. Like, this could be amazing, or it could suck. They could have picked specific titles for their benchmarks, and I looked at the benchmarks, and that's more or less equal to the 2080. They could have picked those specific benchmarks because this card competes the most heavily there, or they could have picked them because they are titles that are most often associated with NVIDIA, because there are a couple titles. I think Rise of the Tomb Raider's on there. There's Battlefield. So there are titles on there that seem like they were picked just because they're associated with NVIDIA. I don't know if that's the case across the board or if AMD is just cherry picking information the way that they need to try to sell it. We will wait until it releases and then we will probably get the full story. And crazy enough, there's not even gonna be like a super ultra compute unit Frontier edition that we're gonna have to wait for. It's just gonna end up in reviewers' hands probably within the next month. So I guess wait for that. Intel didn't actually announce anything this CES. For the most part, the event that they held earlier, it's the same information, so we don't even have to really talk about them. I just realized that I promised you guys a render of the Nova mod while editing the video. Like, I'm in Premiere right now editing. So I actually do have it rendered out. I've actually had it rendered out since earlier this week. So let's actually go over it. I'm actually gonna throw them up on the screen and talk about them really quickly. So we went with a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild theme. And it is, I'm actually really happy with how this, the concepts are at the moment. Now, of course, there are going to be some things that are going to be different just because translating this to that will be difficult. But at the same time, I have already kind of worked out assembly, and in the 3D model, it actually is assembled more or less how it's going to be assembled in real life. These plates with these giant cutouts for the Sheikah symbol and the Sheikah lettering are actually going to be whole plates that we're going to cut from. We're going to cut the entire design from a separate plate, and then we're going to take plexiglass and we're going to layer the plexi where the holes are, and then we're going to beam LEDs into that plexi so that the whole thing will illuminate. In the front panel here, you're actually going to see a bit of a gap. That is because we're actually going to have LEDs firing the opposite way through another piece of plexi that will then create this nice line illumination effect from the side. It should look pretty cool. We then created these boxy kind of gold accents because everything was looking really, really dark. And when illuminated, it'll look great. But the gold kind of tied things together a little bit. So I went ahead and I actually designed these pieces so that they actually are slightly larger than the actual panel so that they can conceal some of the hardware we're using to mount them and some of the seams in the case. The bottom PSU shroud is going to be removed and painted, and then the side panel, again, is going to be a large piece of aluminum that we're going to cut the design out of. This design is going to be much, much easier to cut as it's just dots. We're going to take a drill to it and then the Dremel to draw straight lines between them. And then the hardest part is going to be on all of these panels is in Sheikah Nova. Nova is written on the front and on the side. Again, plexi is going to be over the open pieces with fired LEDs firing in the directions necessary. I'm going to hopefully make them addressable, and it is going to look pretty awesome. As I said, this was an inspired design. I wanted to keep everything looking still pretty sleek and minimalistic, much like the case that everything is in. So with the water cooling loop plus this is gonna be one beautiful system that you're not going to be ashamed to say, I built this is what I can do, and this is how awesome it looks. Now, of course, there is room for improvement, and things might change between the time that this is completed and this design, but I'm excited just to show you guys what Nova is. So, back to the actual video, because it is long, gonna be honest. Laptops did have some cool stuff though. After the heaviness that was the middle of this episode. Laptops did have some pretty cool stuff. Two laptops stood out to me in particular, and those were the Asus Mothership and the Alienware 51M. And it's actually for more or less the same reason. Asus Mothership took all of the laptop components and decided we're gonna take the whole thing, we're gonna just put it all on the screen, and that's gonna be your computer, and then the keyboard's gonna pop out. And I'm excited about that because that means you could probably run much, much more powerful components in a better cooled environment. And one of the big limiting factors about laptops is their cooling. Even though like a 2080 Max Q could probably reach the powers of a 2080, can't sustain it because of the temperature. So seeing that Asus is already trying to combat that issue by making the cooling better, by turning it up on its side, is pretty cool. And I do like those style of computers, especially when they include pens, because drawing tablets are expensive, and if you could just bundle things, I like to just bundle things together as much as possible. It could be cool, it could be awesome. So I am looking forward to seeing reviews on that. The Alienware 51 is the first time I have been excited about an Alienware product in God knows how long. This thing is using full desktop parts in a laptop. The Area 51 branding is actually the desktop branding, not the laptop branding. So what they did is they actually have a full, I think it's an i9 9900K or whatever it is in that model that they brought, and it's using a standard socket, meaning you could actually take it apart and put a new chip in there. In fact, Linus actually got the right to take it apart, and he did, and he went right into the processor and looked right at it. Has a standard ARM, everything. The other thing that was really cool is Dell, in like the most un-Dell move I've ever seen, made a specifically replaceable graphics card for their laptops. Meaning they're gonna sell you, it's like a miniature chip. It's actually really, really cool, the technology here. It's a chip that's been modified to work inside the machines and be replaceable, which apparently NVIDIA doesn't want. They don't want you being able to just drop in a new chip whenever you want. So Dell and Alienware went through the effort to make this computer as upgradable as possible. 4 DIMM slots, M.2 slots that are empty and ready to go. There are even 2.5-inch slots, which means you can put SSDs and HDDs, whatever you want in it. And this is why I say this is a very un-Dell computer, because this one, hypothetically, you could buy. And then 3 years down the line, when you have to replace the graphics card, you reach out to Dell and they sell you the replacement graphics card. You take your own thing apart, you put the new one in, and then you're good. You don't have to replace anything else. You don't have to buy a whole new computer. And that, to me, is amazing. And I hope we continue to see a trend like this. I want to see more like this. I wish I could go and buy all my parts to a laptop and just build my own laptop. This is a step in the right direction, and I hope we continue to see things in that direction. And that was just a slice of pie. That was a lot more energy than I expected at 11 in the morning. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed watching the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, all that wonderful stuff. We're gonna go ahead and play the end card, and I'm just gonna say thank you guys again. Wolfie.